Redditors, what's the worst thing you've eaten out of politeness? My sister was trying to be nice after I had taken care of her for 3 years while she dealt with her mental health. She tried to make me a pizza. It came out more like charcoal, like fully all black. She tried so hard to make me happy for once that I had to at least get some of it down. It's not as burnt as it looks. Really yummy. She was really happy with herself after that. That's really sweet. For a friend of mine it was bananas. He used to come hang out in the morning or stay the night to play games when we were growing up, and he ate breakfast with us a lot. My parents loved having bananas with breakfast on the weekend, and banana pancakes for that matter, so he'd have them all the time. It was probably about 5 years into our friendship before I found out that he absolutely hates bananas and was only eating them to be polite. As someone who hates bananas, this sounds like my worst nightmare. That being said, I definitely wouldn't have waited 5 years to tell someone that was constantly trying to serve me bananas that I don't like them. I'm polite but not that polite, lol. When my sister was 5, she had my mom, friend and I sit for her tea party. She made us drinks. I asked her what she gave us and she said it was water and sparkle perfume. That sounds poisonous. Was working in China. They had a big celebratory banquet for us. They served a local delicacy, sea worms. It was a white tube that when immersed in near freezing water essentially dissolved into a gelatinous lump. Think fish flavored jello, with just a hint of residual gristle. Ugh. Had to eat several servings while downing shots of mayotte. Alcohol makes anything better. Girlfriend in college wanted to be nice to my roommate and me because she often ate over at our apartment, so she was to cook dinner one night. Teriyaki steak. Somewhere along the line, she got TBSP and cup mixed up and added 3/4 cup of salt. Pretty sure we were nearing the LD50 of salt for a human, but I ate as much as I could and drank as much water as I could for the next few days. A girl I dated was trying to impress me, so she tried to make green curry. She added too much curry paste and we both sat there sweating and crying. At least she ate it too. Haha. My beloved but very elderly gram-in-law made chocolate chip cookies in which she messed up the sugar and salt and mistook the dried black beans in her cupboard for chocolate chips. Oh dear. I came home from school one day and was hungry and told my mother that, and she told me there was blueberry muffins. So I took one, and when I took a bite it was the driest, most flavorless thing I've ever eaten. So as to not upset my mother I ate it, and when I came back my mom was laughing and I asked what was funny and she told me they were a friend of hers muffins and my brother had spit them out when he tried it. So basically I got pranked by my mom. Your mom is amazing. Was visiting Guatemala, and this old lady invited us to dinner. In this country, it's extremely rude to not eat what was placed before you. Unfortunately, this lady served us a vegetable soup with some meat in it that tasted like chicken broth from heck. She didn't eat with us, as she was being polite or something. She didn't even talk to us during the dinner. We took a taste and nearly wanted to puke. However, due to the country customs, we decided to eat it. We barely could get through it. We ate about 3/4 of it and then mentioned we were just full. We both retched later on that night. It was so nasty. Ran into the lady later in the week walking down the street, and she apologized to us. Apparently the chicken was rotten and she only took one bite. She then chastised us for not telling her. Sometimes it's frustrating not knowing all the ins and outs of different customs. This one's actually kinda funny. My grandma died right before Christmas. We all got together for the holiday and my aunt was understandably still taking it really hard. She'd made something she called vanilla angel food pudding cake. It was in a shallow casserole dish. Top layer was whipped cream and cookie crumble. Middle layer was vanilla pudding. Bottom layer was crumbled angel food cake. Soaked to the top in a massive pool of bourbon. The cake was floating in the bourbon. We'd later found out she'd mixed even more bourbon into the pudding layer. She didn't tell anyone it was alcoholic, so we all got scoops assuming it was a syrup or something. My cousin was the first to bite into it and had to run to the trash can to vomit as soon as it got in her mouth. Another person got a forkful near their nose and freaked out and yelled in shock. Cue my aunt beginning to completely melt down about how she's trying so hard and she got the recipe from a friend and it's not that much alcohol and grandma was such a good cook she would have helped her etc like full blown about to lose it. The cousin that vomited tried to claim it was something else while the yeller tried to play off that they saw a bug across the room. Everyone else was sufficiently guilted into eating at least some of what they'd scooped onto their plates. That crap was physically painful to eat. Everything burned. Looking around the table you would have thought we were all downing spoonfuls of wasabi. I was 19 but I guess my parents were more worried about my aunt than me getting underage sloshed on pudding, but about halfway through my portion they found a discreet way to dump my plate. The whole place reeked a couple minutes after we dug into the pudding too, so it was this awful inescapable sensory overload of bourbon. This one's actually kinda funny. My grandma died right before Christmas. Good story, but this made me choke on my water. My husband's grandma made us a miso soup that was almost black from teriyaki and soy sauce in it. All of the vegetables in it were slimy and overcooked. It so barely resembled miso that the next day I made some regular miso for myself and she was offended that I didn't eat the perfectly good leftovers. I was all confused until my husband whispered to me that she thought the abomination she served us was miso soup. My grandpa made sushi with tuna, rhubarb, yellow mustard, seaweed, and undercooked rice. Watched me eat it, make sure I got a taste of each ingredient. The entire time I ate it, I thought this tough bastard made it through the beaches of Normandy. Eat the sushi and smile. I went to Kenya on a college trip. For the first week we were there we built a kitchen into a school. Every day my buddy and I would joke about this goat at the school and his big its nuts were. Well, fast forward and the last day we were there the school put on a feast. Eating corn, beans and kale, grown at the school, with goat meat. The local elders came by at the end to show their appreciation. My teacher, who was from Kenya, got up and said the elders had prepared a delicacy. It is somewhat of an insult to not eat what they present you. Bam, here came the karma bus. Now I enjoy fried Rocky Mountain oysters. However, what they served was a barely boiled gotch ball. I tore off a sizable chunk like a champ. I will never forget the rubbery texture, or the ultra gamey taste, but I ate it like I was honored for even being offered. I'm not saying it's unfathomable for eating goat testicles to be culturally significant, but I always have to imagine it could all be some old inside joke where they tell foreigners that it would insult them if the guests don't eat these goat nards. My family was very strict about wasting food. My dad was the type to say things like, if you vomit, I will make you eat it, when we thought food was too gross to eat, like boiled spinach. It didn't help my father's mom was the type who'd make him take ice baths for bad behavior back in the old country, and he'd follow through. On my mom's side my grandfather said things like, if you drop your food on the floor, I'll pick it up and you'll eat it anyway. My grandmother was the type to clean super thoroughly, but they were legit migrant farmers so wasting food was super taboo. One day around 12-13 years old my friend invited me over for dinner at his place. His mom was an amazing cook. 15 years later she's still the only woman who can cook me fish that I will happily eat. So I'm 100% down for dinner. We get there and she's got the dinner table covered end to end in fresh ingredients. She's chopping and cooking away like a kitchen monster. I'm excited. 2 or 3 hours goes by and food is ready. We go over and grab bowls and we sit down. I take my first bite and immediately my mouth is ablaze with Cantonese fire. My friend looks at me and says, "Is it too spicy?" Choking a little and starting to sweat I shake my head. I need finish this bowl. I get 3 bites in and I'm breaking already. I get up and grab a glass of water and try again, and again, and again. Halfway through the bowl my eyes are streaming and his mom takes me to her room and starts holding me while I sob full-bodied racking sobs. She pet my hair and started singing to me softly till I settled down. She was always super strict with everybody, but this little moment just kinda broke my heart. Eventually she got me to get it together and told me it was okay if I didn't finish my food, she wouldn't tell anybody and whatnot. She was always super kind to me after that, and I felt kinda bad about visiting when she'd be strict with my friend but not me. To this day she still holds a special admiration in my heart and I still miss seeing her. Oddly wholesome. Nice story. Thanks for sharing. In Arequipa, Peru I drank a blended mixture consisting of molasses, stout beer, raw eggs, some vegetables, And frog skin. Yes, the skin of a frog. It's a symbol for healthy fertility, I guess, and the tour guide insisted we try it. That is called a fricking with the white tourists. Chitterlings. My husband begged me to try it. It's his favorite dish. I tried a small bite. It tasted like straight crap. Straight fermented crap. I told my friend about my experience and she insisted it just wasn't prepared right and I needed to try hers. I went to her house and saw that she prepares hers with green peppers and onions. I was reluctant but hopeful. I took a bite. It tasted like straight fermented crap with a side of green peppers and onions. I was nice and I took 2 bites but I couldn't stomach anymore. Sea snails with my Vietnamese friend. I paid for it when I tried to pull it out with my teeth instead of using the little toothpick. Since it is in a spiral inside the shell, it snapped out of the shell and sprung forth, bouncing off my face and onto the table, leaving my face covered in fishy smelling, briny seawater. I would have run straight to the bathroom, but I was temporarily brain-aided. I can't tell if this is real or not based on my knowledge of Reddit and puns. I believe you though, don't get me wrong. Back in the late 1970s, I was sent from California to a rural Maryland town for a 6-month job assignment. I was used to the wide variety of very fresh vegetables grown within a couple of hours of my city. In that rural Maryland town, I rarely saw what I would consider good fresh vegetables, except for a very short season when farmers markets had local produce. I really missed my good veggies. I rented part of a house that had been converted to apartments. The nice elderly couple next door had a huge vegetable garden, consisting primarily of green beans. I used to lust after those beans. One day, Mrs. Neighbor saw me outside and invited me to join them later in the day for a barbecue. We are going to have the first of our own green beans. I could hardly wait. I was so looking forward to those beans. Mr. Neighbor barbecued and Mrs. Neighbor plated the food in the kitchen. With great pride, she handed me a plate containing an incinerated steak and a bunch of grey tubes. We like our green beans best after they've been canned. Yep, she had home canned the green beans, then cooked them, southern style, for an hour or so with a chunk of ham. I looked at my plate. I looked over at all those crisp, vibrant beans still on the plants. I looked back at my plate. I never knew I possessed such good acting ability. Whoa, you lived through a MASH episode. They did the same crap with corn, grew it, harvested it, then some fuckwit made creamed corn. An undercooked potato, garlic, feta, chopped meat package in aluminium foil. It was supposed to be a Greek dish. We all got sick. I'm Greek and what the frick is that abomination? Also I'm Greek American. I realized it sounds like I'm from Greece but I'm not. I am actually the one who made the horrible meal. When I was around 8, I decided I wanted my mom to relax while I cooked her dinner and did the dishes. I made way overcooked spaghetti with a plain can of diced tomatoes that I added water to because I thought that is how sauce worked. Finished it off with every seasoning herb we owned plus some ketchup because the sauce looked a little too much like water and heck some mustard, mayo and any sauce I saw in the fridge because she liked all those things. My mom took her first bite, smiled through it, told me how much she enjoyed not having to cook then ate every freaking bite on her plate. She told me much later on that she ate the dinner I made her because she didn't want to discourage me from taking initiative and trying new things. She also later told me it was the most god-awful thing she had ever eaten in her life. I told my mom that her awesome momming made a lot of people on Reddit happy and that made her feel cool as heck. Apparently I wrote a recipe to go with this fabulous dinner that I called Good Spaghetti. Will post if my mom finds it. Pretty hilarious. Also, after this episode my mom made a point to actually teach me how to cook. I think she taught me pretty well. Or maybe she is still lying to me to make me feel better. That's so sweet though and your mom is a champ for pushing through it. Durian my co-worker brought. I mean I was curious so it wasn't just politeness. But I'd heard it smelled like a sewer but was absolutely delicious. In reality it just smelled pretty bad and tasted pretty bad as well. Every burp brought regret. One time I volunteered to deliver a prescription after work to this old man cause he lived in the building beside mine. He answers the door with a good You're here, and ushers me to a table where another reluctant diner appeared to be held hostage as well. He forces us to ingest all of the cold, sweet yellow rice and vile tasting yogurt he could slop on our plates and would not leave us alone until our plates were clean. I tried to use every excuse in the book, but he kept saying in his culture it's rude not to completely finish your plate, etc. He kept saying it was such a delicacy and blah blah, and I appreciate that in his culture it might be, but I kinda felt violated to be forced to eat something, let alone seeing the giant Tupperware it was scooped out of, not knowing when the heck it was made and by whom. My grandma boiled chicken in ketchup once. She also had pickled watermelon for a side that day. Not one of my favorite things I've ever eaten. Pickled watermelon rinds done correctly can actually be quite tasty, but I have had it done wrong and is definitely not good, then lol. Condolences on trying that chicken though. I know this is a horrible thing to say, but because I was beaten into eating my food as a child, I can eat pretty much anything no matter how much I don't like it. But my in-laws' god-awful Thanksgiving dinners tried me to the limit. I quit going to their Thanksgivings because of how nasty it was. And for me to say that, it means the food was nasty. Not a one of them knows how to cook, and I think they subsist entirely on cheap microwave dinners. Grandma can cook supposedly. They got a pre-cooked turkey and dried it out further in the oven. That wasn't too bad. Super generic box mac and cheese made the night before, stuck in the microwave and heated to lukewarmness. I could live with that. Super generic instant mashed potatoes that had the consistency of grit. Okay, I'll choke it down. Then we have the cornbread dressing, which was like they just took cornmeal and made it into a paste with water and heated it up. I positively loathe cornmeal dressing, yet I managed a bite or two. But the crowning glory of nastiness was Granny's famous trademark casserole that everyone revered like it was the casserole of the gods. Some concoction of asparagus, boiled eggs, crushed cornflakes, and God knows what all. It was vile. I choked down a serving of it. God knows how. It looked like green vomit covered with boiled egg slices, and it stank. To make all this stuff 10 times worse, the pervasive stench of raw sewage permeates the house from their unpumped septic tank that leaks into the yard. Still smell better than the boiled egg and asparagus horror. I can't do it anymore. These people burned out my ability to eat nasty food with a smile. In the 4th grade, I had a sleepover at my best friend's house. I was excited because her mom was a high power attorney and was going to cook a fancy dinner for us. Her mom was so glamorous. Well, it comes time to dig into the pasta with tomato sauce, and well, it wouldn't go down my throat. I'm pretty sure she mixed up the salt with sugar and my 10-year-old bod was not gonna let it go down. I'm pretty sure I really hurt her feelings, but I told her I had eaten right before I was dropped off at their house. I'm 32 and I still remember that taste. Lutefisk. Norwegian friend was really excited for me to try it, and I hadn't the heart to just spit it straight back out because holy crap, it's freaking disgusting. I'll eat anything once, and lutefisk is one of about 5 things that I've eaten once and will not have a second time. Room temperature runny fish jello. MMMMM. Drunken shrimp. I was living in China and out with the local teachers. They ordered this dish and I was picturing something totally different. What arrived was a bowl of tiny live shrimp in a clear liquid. Turns out the shrimp are put in a bowl of alcohol and drink themselves to death, at which point you eat them. It takes a little while for them to die. I remember one of the ladies lifting the lid and a shrimp tried to jump out. She said not ready yet and put the lid back on. Once all the shrimp were dead, the bowl was passed around like a plate of fries. I didn't want to be rude, so I tried one, but one was enough to last me a lifetime. My co-workers said this is common in Malaysia too. They're supposed to cook the shrimp after they drink themselves to death though. It was supposed to be hardcore, but I actually really enjoyed it. The actual answer was cookie cake made by someone who was getting the idea that cooking doesn't have to be rigid and mathematical, except they forgot to tell her that that doesn't apply to baking. My aunt's garlic bread. She put it in the oven at the same time as the lasagna, and by the time it came out, it could have been used as a tank shell. TBH, I'm not sure if I ate it, or just poured enough water to soften it. Reminds me of my great uncle. We were over his house and he put the garlic bread under the gas broiler. Literally caught fire and turned black, and he goes perfect. My aunt's mother effing broccoli casserole that my mom made me take a bite of every Thanksgiving. I don't know how exactly she concocted this thick, pasty casserole that smelled and tasted like a noxious cabbage fart, but my god, I can still think of the taste and gag, and we haven't done Thanksgiving at her place in well over 12 years now. I know what you mean about the fart casserole. One of my great aunts makes a casserole every Christmas that smells and tastes exactly like someone sealed a hot silent ham fart in between each layer. Any relatives who eat it get poisonous refried farts that hiss out of you for a full minute like an angry snake. I was doing my practical portion for paramedic school, and my mom, who at the time had stage 4 lung cancer, would stay up every night to cook me dinner for when I got home. She made pasta, which, while usually very good, she was Italian, included sugar instead of salt. It was honestly inedible. Truth be told, though, I'd eat it every single day if she was still here. A very garlicky carbonara. My sister's boyfriend offered to make a carbonara for our family, and we accepted as we had heard good things about his cooking from my sister. He bought the pre-chopped garlic that comes in a container where they are separated into portions, kind of in a grid setup of mini 1-portion garlic all connected. There's about 30 per pack minimum. Now I am not adverse to garlic, in fact I myself often put in more than the recommended when I cook. But holy crap, this was bad. Turns out he had used all 30 portions of garlic to make a carbonara for 8 people. He had also used a certain kind of mature cheese which gave everything a nasty aftertaste. Overall, we haven't let him cook food for us again, but he doesn't know why. I don't remember the name of it, but they were these white bean looking things about the size of my thumb in a soup. Had the texture of chewing carpet. Actual carpet, mind you. That's not a euphemism. Anyways. Took me about an hour to finish 3/4 of the bowl. I ended up giving up because I couldn't stop gagging. I felt bad because my friend's grandma made it and I was at their place for dinner. But luckily for me, they were appreciative of the fact that I actually tried to finish it rather than be offended that I didn't like it. I made a point to not be around during dinner hours anymore, though. This was my dad eating it rather than me, but I was a witness. I have 2 older sisters. When the elder of them decided that she wanted to cook a meal for the family, it was a big deal. She decided to make chili, and she used my mom's big red Betty Crocker cookbook, or similar, but one of those generic cookbooks most families have, for the recipe. At one point it calls for a whole heap of chili powder, and this is where things went wrong. She used the chili powder from our kitchen drawer. Seems fair, right? Except my dad is Pakistani and it was some sort of incredibly intense chilies or something like that. Bear in mind that at this point I was, like, 8 or younger, so my grasp of the details was minimal. All I knew was that you couldn't even go near the pot. Breathing the air in the kitchen was an experience. The entire family just noped out. Nice try, let's order a pizza. You can give it a go again next week. Except for my dad. He was determined that his daughter had cooked dinner and he was going to eat that dinner. He ate it. He ate the whole pot. But the end. His face was Crayola fire engine red and there was sweat pouring off of him. We would ask if he was okay, and he would croak out, "Yes, it's very good," in a tone which implied he was fighting for each moment of survival. I don't even want to consider what his gut was like for the rest of that week. But his daughter cooked him dinner and he ate the whole pot. Big dad energy. My great grandmother once baked the family a pumpkin pie knowing that it's my dad's favorite. She was so excited to share it with everyone. She was old and losing her memory, and she'd accidentally switched the salt and sugar when making this pie. Everyone ate at least a few bites so that she wouldn't be hurt. Raw, ground sheep meat. I could taste the cold, stringy, undissolved fat with every chew and I could barely choke it down. Who serves raw meat and expects their guests to eat it? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.